Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story. Emma Rosewood smoothed her thrift store dress for the 100th time as she entered the Grand Belmore Hotel's crystal ballroom. The champagne-colored fabric had looked elegant under her apartment's dim lighting. But here among the sea of designer gowns and tailored suits, she felt like a dandelion among roses. Her best friend Chloe had begged her to be her +1 too. This wedding? Then promptly abandoned her the moment they arrived to chase after the wedding photographer. The ballroom sparkled with 1,000 fairy lights, casting dancing shadows across marble floors that probably cost more than Emma's annual rent. Round tables draped in ivory silk filled the space, each centerpiece a masterpiece of white orchids and cascading pearls. Emma clutched her small clutch purse tighter, feeling more out of place with each step. Table 7, she whispered to herself, checking the elegant card in her hand. Of course it would be in the back corner, practically hidden behind a towering floral arrangement. The table for overflow guests, the ones nobody really knew what to do with. The mysterious stranger. As Emma settled into her chair, she noticed the seat beside her remained empty, while the rest of the table filled with chattering strangers. She picked at her salad, trying to look busy while conversations flowed around her about exotic vacations and country club memberships. The bride and groom looked radiant at the head table, completely absorbed in their fairy tale moment. "Is this seat taken?" A deep voice interrupted her thoughts. Emma looked up and felt her breath catch. Standing beside her was possibly the most handsome man she had ever seen in real life. Tall and broad-shouldered, he wore a perfectly fitted black tuxedo that emphasized his athletic build. His dark hair was styled just messy enough to look effortless, and his eyes were an unusual shade of green that seemed to hold secrets. "No, please," Emma managed, gesturing to the empty chair. "It's all yours." He slid into the seat with fluid grace, and Emma caught a hint of expensive cologne mixed with something uniquely masculine. "Sebastian Blackwood," he said, extending his hand. "And you are?" "Emma Rosewood," she replied, shaking his hand and trying to ignore the electric shock that ran up her arm at the contact. "I'm here with my friend Chloe, though she seems to have disappeared." Sebastian's smile was warm and genuine. Nothing like the practiced smiles she had seen from other wealthy-looking guests. Ah, the classic wedding abandonment. "I'm actually the best man, but I needed to escape my duties for a moment. The bride's grandmother keeps trying to set me up with her granddaughter. An unexpected connection." Emma laughed despite herself. "Sounds terrifying. You have no idea. She cornered me during cocktails and started showing me baby photos." Sebastian's eyes crinkled with humor. "So, Emma Rosewood, what brings you to this circus besides a disappearing friend?" "Chloe works with the bride. I'm just the +1 who doesn't know anyone." Emma found herself relaxing despite her nervousness. There was something about Sebastian that made her feel at ease, as if she had known him longer than 5 minutes.
"Oh,
"You know me now," Sebastian said, raising his champagne glass. "To new friendships and surviving wedding receptions." Emma clinked her glass against his, surprised by how natural it felt. "To surviving," she agreed. As the evening progressed, Emma found herself completely absorbed in conversation with Sebastian. He was intelligent and funny, asking genuine questions about her life and listening intently to her answers. When she mentioned her job as a florist, his eyes lit up with interest. "You create beauty for a living," he said. "It must be incredibly fulfilling." "It is," Emma said, surprised by his understanding. "Most people think it's just arranging flowers, but there's so much more to it. Color theory, symbolism, understanding what emotions people want to convey." Sebastian leaned forward, slightly. "Tell me more." The dance that changed everything. For the next hour, Emma found herself talking more than she had in months. Sebastian asked about her favorite flowers, her most challenging arrangements, her dreams of opening her own shop someday. He shared stories, too, though she noticed he was vague about his own work, mentioning something about business consulting and helping companies grow. When the band began playing slow songs, couples drifted onto the dance floor. Emma watched them with a mixture of longing and contentment. She had never been much of a dancer, but sitting here with Sebastian made her feel like she belonged somewhere. For the first time in years, "Would you like to dance?" Sebastian asked, as if reading her thoughts. Emma hesitated. I should warn you, I'm not very good at this. It's lucky for you I am, Sebastian said with a grin, standing and offering his hand. Trust me. Against her better judgment, Emma placed her hand in his and let him lead her onto the dance floor. The moment his arm encircled her waist, she felt like she was floating. He moved with confident grace, guiding her through the steps so naturally that she forgot her nervousness. You're full of surprises, Emma Rosewood, Sebastian murmured, his breath warm against her ear. So are you, Sebastian Blackwood, she replied. Hey. Looking up into those mysterious green eyes, the mystery deepens as the song ended. Emma noticed other guests watching them with curious expressions. A few women whispered behind their hands, shooting glances in Sebastian's direction. Emma felt a flutter of unease. There was something about the way people looked at him, a mixture of recognition and reverence that suggested he was more than just another wedding guest. Sebastian, she said as they returned to their table, what do you really do for work? He paused, his hand still holding hers. It's complicated, try me. Sebastian looked around the ballroom, then back at her. I run a few companies. Technology. Mostly nothing too exciting. But Emma noticed the way he said it, the careful neutrality in his voice. She also noticed the expensive watch on his wrist, the way the waitstaff treated him with extra deference, the quality of his clothes that spoke of custom tailoring. Are you someone famous? She asked quietly. Sebastian's expression grew serious. Would it matter if I were? The question hung between them like a challenge. Emma studied his face, seeing vulnerability beneath the confident exterior. I don't know, she said honestly. I guess it would depend on what kind of famous. It's the kind that makes people treat you differently, Sebastian said. The kind that makes genuine connections nearly impossible. The evening's end dazzled the reception. Wound down, Emma found herself reluctant to leave. The evening had been magical in a way she had never expected. Sebastian had made her feel seen, appreciated, interesting. For once, she hadn't felt like she was invisible. I should probably find Chloe, Emma said reluctantly as the last dance ended. Of course, Sebastian said, but he made no move to leave. Emma, I'd like to see you again. Outside of all this, he gestured around the elegant ballroom. Emma's heart skipped. I'd like that too. Sebastian pulled out his phone. May I have your number? As Emma gave him her contact information, she noticed his phone was the latest model, sleek and expensive. Everything about Sebastian spoke of wealth and sophistication, while everything about her screamed ordinary. But the way he looked at her made her feel anything but ordinary. I'll call you tomorrow, Sebastian promised, his fingers brushing hers as he handed back her phone. Tomorrow, Emma agreed, her pulse racing. As she walked away to find Chloe, Emma felt Sebastian's eyes on her. She turned back once and saw him standing by their table, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read.
Oh.
In that moment, she realized that whatever Sebastian Blackwood's secrets were, she was already in too deep to walk away. The evening had started with Emma feeling invisible, forgotten in the back corner of a wedding reception. But now, as she left the Grand Belmore Hotel, she felt anything but invisible. She felt like the heroine of her own fairy tale. And Sebastian Blackwood might just be her Prince Charming, though something told her that in real life, fairy tales were far more complicated than they appeared. Emma woke the next morning with butterflies dancing in her stomach and Sebastian's business card on her nightstand. She had barely slept, replaying every moment of their conversation, every touch, every look that had passed between them. Morning sunlight streaming through her tiny apartment window seemed brighter somehow, as if the world itself had shifted overnight. Her phone buzzed at exactly 10 o'clock. Good morning, Emma. I hope you slept better than I did. Sebastian's voice was warm through the speaker, and Emma could hear the smile in his words. I'm not sure I slept at all, Emma admitted, curling up in her favorite armchair. Last night feels like a dream. Then let me prove it was real. Have lunch with me today. Emma's heart raced. I'd love to, but I have to work. Saturday's our busiest day at the flower shop. What time do you finish? Around 6? Perfect. I'll pick you up at 7. Dress casually. After hanging up, Emma spent the entire day in a daze, arranging bouquets while her mind wandered to green eyes and mysterious smiles. Her coworker Lily noticed immediately. You're glowing, Lily observed, watching Emma hum while she worked on A particularly elaborate wedding arrangement. Who is he? Someone I met last night, Emma said, unable to suppress her smile. Someone incredible. The revelation at 7 sharp, a sleek black car pulled up outside Rosewood Flowers. Emma locked up quickly, smoothing her simple sundress and hoping she looked appropriate for whatever Sebastian had planned. But when she approached the car, it wasn't Sebastian behind the wheel. Miss Rosewood, I'm Thomas, Mr. Blackwood's driver. He's waiting for you. Emma's steps faltered. Driver. She slid into the back seat, where Sebastian sat with that same warm smile. But now she noticed details she had missed before. The car's interior was pure luxury, with leather seats and a small bar. Sebastian wore jeans and a casual button-down. But even his casual clothes screamed expensive. You have a driver, Emma said, settling beside him. I do, Sebastian said simply. Is that a problem? I'm just trying to figure out who you really are. Sebastian took her hand. I'm the same person. Who sat with you at table 7 last night? Everything else is just details. Thomas drove them through the city to an area Emma rarely visited, where skyscrapers reached toward the clouds and everything gleamed with wealth. They stopped in front of a building that seemed to stretch endlessly upward, its glass facade reflecting the setting sun. This is where I live, Sebastian said as they rode the elevator to the top floor, when the doors opened directly into Sebastian's penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city. Sebastian, Emma said slowly, taking in the luxury around. What exactly do you do? He poured 2 glasses of wine and handed her one. I told you I'd run a few companies. Few companies, Emma repeated. In this building? Actually, I own this building, and several others. The truth unveiled. Emma set down her wine glass with shaking hands. You own buildings, plural, Sebastian. Ran a hand through his hair, suddenly looking vulnerable despite his surroundings. Emma, I should have been more upfront. My name is Sebastian Blackwood. Blackwood Technologies, Blackwood Industries, Blackwood Real Estate. I've been fortunate in business. Fortunate, Emma echoed, staring at him. You're not just wealthy. You're one of those billionaires I read about in magazines. The number isn't important, Sebastian said quietly. What's important is that I've never met anyone who made me want to be just Sebastian. It's not the CEO, not the heir to anything, just me. Emma walked to the window, looking out at the city spread below. This is why people were staring at you last night. Why the waiters treated you like royalty. Yes, and you didn't think to mention this? Sebastian moved behind her, close enough that she could feel his warmth. I've learned that money changes how people see me. I wanted you to know me first. Emma turned to face him. I'm a florist, Sebastian. I live in a studio apartment above a coffee shop. I buy my clothes at thrift stores. We live in completely different worlds, do we? Sebastian asked, his green eyes intense. Just because last night, sitting at that table talking to you, I felt more at home than I have in years. Meeting the family before Emma could respond, the elevator chimed and a woman stepped out. She was stunning in that effortless way that came with excellent genes and unlimited resources, her auburn hair perfectly styled and her designer clothes impeccable. Sebastian, you missed dinner with the Harringtons, she said, then noticed. Emma. Oh, I didn't realize you had company. Victoria, this is Emma Rosewood. Emma, my sister Victoria. Victoria's smile was polite but assessing the florist. You've heard of me? Emma asked, surprised. Sebastian hasn't stopped talking about you since last night, Victoria said, her expression warming slightly. Which is unprecedented, by the way. My brother usually keeps his social life very private, Victoria, Sebastian warned. What? True, Victoria turned back to Emma. He canceled 3 important meetings today because he couldn't concentrate. Mother is beside herself. Emma felt heat rise in her cheeks. I should probably go. No, Sebastian said quickly, reaching for her hand. Stay, please. I have an early morning tomorrow and you clearly have family obligations. Emma, Sebastian's. The voice was soft, pleading. Don't let this scare you away. Yes, I have money. Yes, my life is complicated. But what I feel for you is real. Emma looked between Sebastian and Victoria, seeing the concern in both their faces. I need time to think, of course, Sebastian said, though disappointment flickered in his eyes. Thomas will drive you home. The choice during the quiet ride back to her apartment, Emma's mind raced. Sebastian Blackwood wasn't just wealthy. He was one of the most powerful men in the city. She had seen his picture in business magazines, though she had never paid attention to the articles. He moved in circles of influence and power that were as foreign to her as another planet. But she also remembered the way he had listened to her talk about flowers, the genuine interest in his eyes when she described her dreams, the way he had held her while they danced, as if she was precious. The vulnerability she had glimpsed when he asked if his fame would matter. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sebastian. "I know this is overwhelming. Take all the time you need, but please don't disappear." Emma stared at the message for a long time before responding. "I won't disappear, but I need to understand what this means." 3 days passed before Emma called him back. 3 days of researching Sebastian Blackwood online, of seeing photos of him at charity galas and business events, always impeccably dressed and surrounded by beautiful, sophisticated people. 3 days of wondering if she was crazy to even consider pursuing this. "Want to see you again?" she said when Sebastian answered. "Anything," Sebastian said immediately. "I want to know who you really are. Not the public version. Not the careful answers. The real Sebastian Blackwood." "Then let me show you," Sebastian said. "Come away with me for the weekend. No press. No obligations. No interruptions. Just us." The weekend that changed everything. Sebastian picked her up himself this time. Driving a modest sedan instead of the luxury car with a driver, he wore jeans and a simple t-shirt, and for the first time since the wedding, he looked like just a man instead of a mogul. They drove 2 hours north to a small cabin by a lake, rustic and charming in its simplicity. "I bought this place when I needed somewhere to think," Sebastian explained as they carried their bags inside. No internet, no cell service, no connections to the outside world. The weekend unfolded like a beautiful dream. They cooked simple meals together, Sebastian admitting he was hopeless in the kitchen but game to try. They hiked forest trails, with Sebastian sharing stories of his childhood, of the pressure he had felt to live up to his family's legacy, of the loneliness that came with success. "I never wanted the spotlight," he told her as they sat by the lake watching the sunset. "I fell into technology because I loved solving problems, but then it grew into something bigger than I ever imagined." Emma asked, curled against his side on the old wooden dock. "I regret how isolated it made me," Sebastian said honestly. "I regret that I stopped trusting people's motives. I regret that I became suspicious of every friendship, every relationship. But not this one." Sebastian turned to face her, his hand cupping her cheek. "With you, I remember what it feels like to be human instead of a brand." That night, as they lay together under a blanket of stars, Emma realized she was falling in love with Sebastian Blackwood. Not the billionaire, not the business mogul, but the man who admitted he was afraid of thunder, who sang off-key while making coffee, who looked at her like she held all the answers he had been searching for. When they returned to the city, Emma knew there was no going back. She was in love with Sebastian completely and irrevocably. But loving him meant stepping into his world, a world that felt as foreign and intimidating as another country. The first test came sooner than expected. "I have a charity gala this Friday," Sebastian said as they had dinner at a quiet restaurant tucked away from prying eyes. "It's for childhood literacy, something I care deeply about. I'd like you to come." "With me?" Emma's fork froze halfway to her mouth. "A gala. With photographers and society people and with me," Sebastian said firmly. "Just focus on that part, Sebastian. I don't have anything to wear to a gala. I don't know how to act at those things. I'll embarrass you." Sebastian reached across the table and took her hand. "Emma, look at me. Could never embarrass me. But if you're not ready, I understand." Emma thought about the weekend at the cabin, about the man who had held her while she cried about her fears, who had promised to stand by her no matter what. "Okay," she said finally. "But you might have to hold my hand the entire time." I was planning on it anyway. The gala, the night of the gala, Emma stood in front of her mirror, hardly recognizing herself. Sebastian had insisted on sending a stylist who had arrived with 3 stunning gowns for Emma to choose from. She had selected a midnight blue dress that made her feel elegant without being ostentatious. When Sebastian picked her up, the look in his eyes made all her nervousness worthwhile. "You're breathtaking," he said softly. Offering his arm, the gala was held at the Metropolitan Museum, its grand halls filled with the city's elite. Emma felt every eye on them as they entered, whispers following in their wake. She recognized faces. From society pages and business magazines, people who lived in a stratosphere she had only read about. "Just breathe," Sebastian murmured in her ear as they posed for photos. "You belong here because you're with me." Throughout the evening, Sebastian never left her side. He introduced her to everyone with genuine pride, never apologizing for who she was or trying to inflate her background. When people asked about her work, he listened with the same attention he gave to discussions of million-dollar deals. "You're different with her," Victoria observed when she found Sebastian by the bar. Emma was across the room, charming a group of elderly donors with stories about the language of flowers. "Different how? Happy? Relaxed? Like yourself instead? Of the Sebastian Blackwood everyone expects you to be." Sebastian watched Emma laugh at something one of the donors said, her face glowing with genuine warmth. "She makes me remember who I wanted to be before I became who I thought I had to be." "She's good for you," Victoria said simply. "But are you good for her?" The question haunted Sebastian for the rest of the evening. Meeting Emma's world the following week, Sebastian insisted on seeing Emma's world. She took him to Rosewood Flowers on a busy Saturday, where he met Lily and the other staff members, who had become like family to her. "So you're the mysterious man who's had our Emma floating on clouds," Lily said with a teasing grin. Sebastian helped arrange flowers, his large hands surprisingly gentle with the delicate stems. Emma watched him joke with her coworkers, compliment elderly customers, and patiently listened to a little girl explain why she needed pink roses for her grandmother. "You're full of surprises," Emma said as they closed up the shop. "I like your life," Sebastian said honestly. "It's real in a way mine rarely is." That evening, Emma took him to her favorite pizza place, a tiny hole-in-a-wall joint where the owner knew everyone's order by heart. Sebastian ate greasy pizza and played arcade games with the enthusiasm of someone discovering simple pleasures for the first time. "This is who you really are," Emma said as they walked home, their fingers intertwined. "This is who I am with you," Sebastian corrected. "You bring out the best parts of me." The obstacles not everyone was supportive of their relationship. Business partner Richard cornered him after a board meeting. "Sebastian, I need to talk to you about this florist. Her name is Emma." "Fine, Emma. The press is starting to notice. There are photos of you two together, speculation about your relationship. This could affect your image." Sebastian's jaw tightened. "My personal life is not up for discussion. Everything about you affects the company, you know that. What happens when this runs its course? What happens to your reputation when it ends? It's not going to end." Richard raised an eyebrow. "You've known her for a month? I've known her long enough to know she's the most genuine person I've ever met. Long enough to know I'm in love with her." "Love," Richard scoffed. "Sebastian, be practical. She's a lovely girl, I'm sure, but she's not from our world. The differences will tear you apart eventually." The proposal, despite the outside pressure, Sebastian and Emma's relationship deepened. They found their rhythm, splitting time between his penthouse and her cozy apartment, between elegant dinners and casual picnics in the park. Emma learned to navigate his world without losing herself, while Sebastian discovered the joy of simplicity. 6 months after the wedding where they met, Sebastian knew he couldn't imagine his life without Emma. He planned the proposal carefully, wanting it to be perfect, but personal. He chose the little cabin by the lake, where they had first truly connected. Emma thought they were just going for another weekend getaway, but when Sebastian led her to the dock where they had shared so many conversations, she found it transformed with hundreds of twinkling lights and white roses. "Emma," Sebastian said, dropping to one knee as the sun set behind them, "6 months ago, I was sitting alone at a wedding, going through the motions of my life. Then you walked in, and everything changed." Emma's hands flew to her mouth, tears already starting. "You make me want to be the man I see reflected in your eyes. You make me believe in love, in partnership, in building something beautiful together." Sebastian opened a small velvet box, revealing a stunning but elegant ring. "Will you marry me?" "Yes," Emma whispered, then louder, "Yes, of course, yes." As Sebastian slipped the ring onto her finger, Emma realized that fairy tales could come true. But only when two people were brave enough to love each other exactly as they were. The wedding a year later. Emma walked down the aisle of the same chapel where they had attended that fateful wedding. But this time, she wasn't sitting alone at table 7. This time, she was the bride, radiant in a simple but elegant gown, walking toward the man who had seen her when she thought she was invisible. Sebastian waited at the altar, his eyes never leaving her face. Victoria stood as maid of honor, having become one of Emma's closest friends. Lily and the staff from Rosewood Flowers filled the front rows, beaming with pride. "You are my greatest adventure," Sebastian said in his vows, his voice thick with emotion. "My safe harbor and my exciting unknown. You taught me that love isn't about finding someone who fits into your world, but about creating a new world together." "You made me believe I was worth noticing," Emma replied, tears streaming down her face. "Worth loving, worth fighting for. You didn't rescue me from my life. You helped me build the life I always dreamed of." As they kissed as husband and wife, Emma thought about that shy, invisible girl who had sat alone at a wedding reception just 2 years ago. That girl had been afraid to take up space, afraid to be seen, afraid to believe she deserved love. But sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin when you think no one is watching, and end when you realize you've been seen all along. Sebastian and Emma Blackwood left the chapel hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next together. They had learned that love wasn't about erasing differences, but about celebrating them. It wasn't about one person saving another, but about two people choosing to build something beautiful together. And in the end, the girl who thought no one would notice her had become impossible to ignore. Not because she changed who she was, but because she finally believed she was worth seeing. Their love story proved that sometimes the most extraordinary romances begin in the most ordinary moments. When two hearts recognize something special in each other and decide to be brave enough to reach for it.